Hello and welcome back. A very warm welcome to you. As you've been here throughout this series on Hebrews, I hope I'm giving you some word, some thoughts that you can consider that maybe you haven't put together before. If this is your first look with me at the book of Hebrews, we're in chapter 5, and there are 5 other videos covering an introduction and chapters 1 through 4. So a warm welcome to you, and I hope you'll check out those other videos. Now in chapter 5, we're talking about the priesthood of Jesus, the high priesthood of Jesus. So let me read the beginning of the chapter. Every high priest is taken from among men and made their representative before God to offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. He is able to deal patiently with the ignorant and erring, for he himself is beset by weakness, and so, for this reason, he must make sin offerings for himself as well as for the people. Now, no one takes this honor upon himself, but only when called by God, just as Aaron was. And in the same way, it was not Christ who glorified himself in becoming a high priest, but rather the one who said to him, "You are my son, this day I have begotten you." And he said in another place, "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." So let's break this down and let me give you a little history. The Jewish people were given a priesthood at the time of the Exodus, and Aaron was called as the first priest, and his sons would be high priest following him. There would be a line, a legitimate line of the priesthood descendants of Aaron. There were also tabernacle and temple workers who acted with priestly duties called Levites. They were from the tribe of Levi. And God established all this. It isn't something that Aaron took upon himself or Moses thought up for himself. According to the belief of the Jewish people, this was established by God. And also, Jesus was called to priesthood, even though he was not a descendant of Aaron or from the tribe of Levi. He's from the tribe of Judah. Now, the mention of Melchizedek here is interesting. Melchizedek is found in the Old Covenant, and he is a priest who is said to have had no beginning and no end. And when Abraham, the founder of the Jewish nation, the first man called to establish circumcision and the Jewish line, and from his descendants came the 12 tribes of the Jewish people. He was a conqueror in a battle, and when he gathered the spoils together, he was greeted by Melchizedek, this special priest, and he gave a tenth of the spoils of battle to Melchizedek, who came to him with a ritual of bread and wine. And so when Jesus was called as high priest, the highest and last and forever, let's say, high priest. He is after the order of Melchizedek, having no beginning and no end, no parentage except God. And we see the body and the blood being represented in the bread and the wine in Christianity as foreshadowed by this Melchizedek. Now, more about this. In the days when he was in the flesh, this is Jesus now, he offered prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverence. Son though he was, he learned obedience from what he suffered, and when he was made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, declared by God high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. So because Jesus lived this human life without sin, and he was obedient in suffering, it says he was made perfect. And because of this sinless life, he became the source of salvation to his followers. Now the next part says, about this we have much to say, and it's difficult to explain. And you people here in that he's writing to have become sluggish in hearing. I know that doesn't apply to any of you. You're anxious to hear. And although you should be teachers by this time, you need to have someone teach you again the basic elements of the utterances of God. You need milk and not solid food. Everyone who lives on milk lacks experience of the word of righteousness, for he is a child. But solid food is for the mature, for those whose faculties are trained by practice to discern good and evil. So this is a little side note where he speaks to the people. He says, I'm going to explain this whole thing about Melchizedek and the high priest to you, but it's going to be hard for me to do because you are living on milk. Solid food means you've practiced discerning good and evil. In other words, you have put your faith into action, and through the guidance of the Holy One, you have done right in your life, and you have rejected anything that is not godly or good. And then he says, but you haven't really done that in this group, and so you are living on milk. Let me explain about the reference to milk. Milk is actually pre-digested food. That is food that has already been digested by another creature and changed in form to milk. And when we drink that milk, we receive the nutrients from the original food. Let's put it in two examples. Let's say first cow or goat's milk, which a lot of them would have been drinking. And the same thing goes for mother's milk in humans. The cow or the mother eats solid food, digests that food, and her body produces nutritious milk. And when the infant or the child drinks this milk, they receive the nutrients. But they are not able yet to take solid food and digest it. It's pre-digested. How do we put that into our spirituality? How many of us, instead of, doing research, reading scriptures, and really trying to figure them out and give them application in our lives. Listen to our pastor, or listen to some teacher on television or YouTube, or go to some kind of Bible study or convention or rally and listen to somebody else explain to us what this all means. Like you're listening to me. Whatever I have pre-digested, I'm spewing it out to you in the form of milk. Now, maybe some of it is more like baby food. It is not just milk. It's starting to have some solid nutrients in it, but it is only solid food when you are discerning good and evil on your own. And so we all, I think, are existing on a diet of some milk, some baby food, and some solid food. If we're able, how do you know if you have solid food? If you're able to demonstrate in your life the things that Jesus tells us in the scripture. If you've assimilated it into your life. In other words, you've learned about a particular sin and you have seen that in your life and you've overcome it. You've discerned good and evil. You've rejected what was wrong and do consistently what is right. That's a form of solid milk. Jesus said that we'd be able, the miracles that you see me doing, the works that I do, you'll be able to do those and even greater works than those. Well, I'd have to say that most of us are not producing the works of Christ. We are not healing the sick and converting the sinner. But as we grow in our ability to digest and assimilate solid food, we should expect to be able to do those things. And maybe that's what I'll leave us with today. This idea that we want to, at least to the beginning stages, take a passage of scripture and tear it apart ourselves. Try to apply it to our own life. Practice it. That's taking on some spiritual solid food. And what your pastor or your favorite YouTube person might say is great, but remember, you're drinking milk when you're taking that in. And we grow exponentially to the amount of solid food that we take on in our spiritual life. So I'm going to leave you with that heavy thought and some work to do this week. And I hope you'll join with me next time when we go on to the next chapter. Remember what we said last time, that God sees us and we approach the throne of grace confidently for mercy, for grace, and for help in time of need. So as we're trying to assimilate this solid food, let's go to the throne of grace and ask for understanding from the Holy One. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, stay safe and very well. Have a great week. Bye for now.